Good morning, everyone. Today is November 19, 2020, Thursday. We give you a recap and also pre-market, also my overview of what I think the market can look like in the following weeks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 1.2% in Wednesday's stock market trading, which is yesterday. So did the S&P 500 index. The Nasdaq Composite retreated 0.8%. Growth stock also pulled back, and Chinese electric vehicles XPEV and NIO dipped a couple percent. However, Tesla stock jumped 10% to 486 and 64 cents, and intraday's high at 496. Part of the Dow gain was due to good news about 737 MAX Boeing. The stock was up from $158 to $200 because of that news. If you bought 1,000 worth of Boeing over past 3 years, you're worth about 1,240, including dividends payout. So what I'm trying to say is this stock, unfortunately, wasn't performing very well in the last few years. With COVID-19 cases spike, Boeing dropped 3% yesterday. Chips maker NVIDIA EPS came in at $2.91 versus consensus of $2.57. And slightly growth compared to the same period last year, although revenue was slightly lower than estimate. The stock went down 2% after earnings release. Target Corporation TGT beat expectation on yesterday, and more retailers are due to report. Shares on home improvement retail lows plummeted 8.21% on a disappointing result, while Target jumped 2.3% yesterday due to strong sales, and the pre-market is also slightly up. Global stock tumbled as COVID-19 spread doses vaccine optimism. U.S. futures are slightly negative at pre-market, well actually not slightly. Now it's a little higher, so Dow was down about, Dow Jones Industrial Average is down about 80-ish to 100 points because it fluctuates. The dollar is up, ending its recent decline, but gold is down for the third consecutive day. NTES came in EPS and revenue much higher than forecast and traded at 87.80, 2.7% higher in pre-market. Here are some things before the bell and things to know for today. Australia employment change 178.8 thousand versus negative 30,000 forecast. So that's good for Australia. There was additional bad news from Bulgarian Air Shuttle, symbol NORR, which crashed 16% after filing for bankruptcy. Tesla rival is going public at 5.4 billion valuation. The British startup is set to list on Nasdaq via SPAC setup. On the data docket, continued jobless claim, ADP employment change, existing home sales, and the EAI natural gas storage change a deal. U.S. Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index actuals is 26.3 versus forecast of 22, but much weaker than previous number of 32.3. The number of Americans filing claims, which the initial jobless claim number came in, much weaker, and increased to unemployment week. A claim increased to 742,000, which is higher than previous week, and the consensus of 710,000. Earnings expected into and workday are highlights. Coronavirus cases worldwide reached 56.52 million. Just to give you some highlight on coronavirus and the status. In the U.S., cases have hit 11.84 million, with deaths about 256,000. Hospitalizations are at record highs and rising. A rush of recent cases has infected a handful of lawmakers and sent several others into quarantine, all while the U.S. Capitol welcomed back more than 500 legislators in the House and Senate this week. Senator Chuck Grassley, one of the oldest members of Senate on Tuesday night, became the latest senator to announce a positive test. Several other lawmakers announced they were quarantining after coming into contact with someone who had tested positive. It's unclear whether any senator would quarantine after Grassley's diagnosis. The House has mandated masks be worn on the floor and in committee hearings, even threatening that members might not be recognized to speak if they are not wearing a face covering. The Senate has not enacted similar policies. has urged members of the chamber have followed public health guidance and mandates were not needed. Leaders in both chambers did agree on one thing: widespread testing on Capitol Hill wasn't feasible. New York City is closing schools as COVID restrictions pick up as coronavirus cases sour across the country. This is probably a major driver of pullback yesterday and this morning that why it had a bad news on jobless initial claim as well. It's still unclear which stock and sector will lead the next leg of market rally with concern of COVID-19 cases spike and shut down the economy. It is difficult to make comparison and in some cases may not be relevant. However, I will advise you to look back in March before the crash, which is around March 17. I mean, it had been plummet and panicking, 1,000 points Dow Jones were going down, and so does Nasdaq. So the Nasdaq September correction where the market was so melt up that everybody was so excited and think things will be continue to be up to September 3rd, and you will start slipping and people were panicking and don't know if it is a correction or crash. So it doesn't really give a sign of market weaknesses right now, but yesterday you can see that the market have dropped in the last 30 minutes to 45 minutes close because of the New York elevated the actions that need to be taken regarding the coronaviruses and the cases continue to surge. If the control wasn't stopped, another state may also implement the same same steps. So you could have lockdown, and economic can pull back. We don't know what happened to Black Friday sales yet. So, and today, pre-market was also down. So if today is down as well, and Friday, let's say Friday also down. Well, if you have 3 consecutive days going down, which wasn't that much, about a percentage point pullback or 2, well, you kind of have to be careful about it that it may be a sign of, corrections, which could be 20% because you look at the market have been up after, before the election. It was down 1,800 points and down, remember, on that week before the election. Then the week after the election, it was very strong and solid and keep rallying up to this point. So I would ask you to look at your portfolio. If you have some huge gains, probably you may want to sell some and profit it in to be a realized gain. For those of you who have exposure of offset still at this point, then you probably want to wait a little bit before selling some of them as well, to take the gain, because you probably have a loss earlier. So if you like my video and have any questions, feel free to let me know. Have a nice day.